That's right, I will certainly be talking a little bit more about that, but I've got to finish the subject I was on before, which I'm nearly through with that, all right, because we covered the major points. And in summary, we're using basically a technology that dates back 200 years and is destroying the planet and is making people's lives a misery and making the lives of other organisms a misery. And we have electrical distribution system, which is inefficient and damaging. We have an oil distribution system of refineries and pipelines. Again, you know, it's coming from miles away, inefficient, destructive. When one of these things breaks, why? Why is it when for almost all that period we've been using that fuel and the free energy, I told you, has been, at least has been known to be available, it's been known to be usable. In the world, it is control. Right. You've got to understand the kind of people running this world, the kind of people we're dealing with. These people are our enemies. They are, well, there's all kinds of theories about who they are. The very highest level, the Illuminati, I use the word Illuminati, other people use different words. They probably don't call themselves that. Dr. John Coleman said they were called the Olympians, and the Council of the Committee 300. David Icke says they're reptilian and not human. Well, they certainly don't act human, so maybe he's right. I mean, in fact, I think I'd be more surprised if they were flesh and blood humans like the rest of us, the way they behave, than they were some non-human species from another world. At the highest level, there's 13 of these guys, it's rumoured to be, that want to create this. They want power and control. For whatever reason, I can't imagine, because I don't want power over anyone. I believe in the Sufi saying, possess nothing, be possessed by nothing. That sums up my life. Why anyone would want anything different, I don't know. I've known people in my own lives who want power over others. I've known them in my family, members of my family are like that. But for whatever reason, I mean, well, why they do it is not the question. The question is they are doing it, and what do we do about it? Now, at the low, I think the point is, because there's so few of them, it's important to realise they play a passive role. They don't have power. We have a power that we don't use it, so they control us. If we used our power, they'd be helpless. Now, on a lower level, beneath them, there's a kind of outer party, to use George Orwell's analogy, of people who are not in the know, they're not in the Illuminati, but they're people who are just maybe greedy or overfed or ignorant and scared of a lifestyle of extreme materialism they become addicted to disappearing. A person like that could be, for instance, a senior politician or the head of an oil company, for example. I mean, I'm sure, I doubt if the chairman of Royal Dutch Shell wants to enslave the world. I mean, I do doubt that. There's people above him who do, but he's probably just, if for him it's his business, he's a livelihood, he's used to being in charge of this oil company, making profits for the oil company. He probably does know that there's free energy available, but, what are you going to do? Go up to him and say, go knock on his office one day and says, hello, just to let you know, your services are no longer required. I don't think so. Look, don't worry, you can branch out into another business. This is what the skeptics don't get. Right, because you get this all the time from the skeptics. They say, well, if this free energy was available, why don't the oil companies snap it up? Why don't they be the first to get in there and invest in it? Sell this free energy if it works so well. Don't they get? You can't sell free energy. It's something these people don't understand. These skeptics. What it's like going up to the skipper of a sailing ship and saying, do you mind if I put a meter on your mast with an anemometer on it, and those little things that goes round to measure wind speed? He says, why? I want to charge you for the wind that you're using. It's like that. That's how ridiculous it is. You can't sell free energy. See, you can't go to the chairman of Royal Dutch Shell and say, look, do you want to invest in free energy? No. And if it's declassified, you know what? Is he going to go down quietly? Is he going to say, all right, we'll do something else then? I don't know. Come here, we'll have a little meeting. Let's make candles. You still need oil to make candles, don't you? Shell candles, that'll be a money spinner. Yes, they're all kinds of different shapes and they're lovely colours and they won't stain your wallpaper. It's cuckoo land. And that's something else that's, you get some videos on YouTube of skeptics saying, trying to debunk the free energy issue, and they'll say crap like this, and it's simply not true. And it's palpably nonsense, and it's completely and utterly plausible that they would attempt to suppress free energy for any number of reasons that I've told you about, and some more that I'm going to tell you about now. I don't know if those of you who went to Ian, did he tell you the story of Henry Ford?
Yeah.
He did. In 1896, Henry Ford was running a line of the new Model T, or it was the new cars that had just come out, the brand new technology, electric and petrol driven. Have any of you read the book Brave New World by Aldous Huxley?
No.
Yeah. It's funny, Henry Ford is their saviour, isn't he? They worship him as a messiah. Anyway, he was putting in these two lines of cars were going out, petrol driven cars like the ones we have today, electric, and through various machinations of JP Morgan and other people, he ended up just producing petrol-driven cars. You might think, well, that's silly, because they want to bring electric cars in today. You charge off the national grid, and you might have thought, well, back in those days, well, that's not a problem, is it? Because then, the business sharks could just buy up the coal companies, which they own anyway, and they could charge people for the electricity. But the thing is, in those days, Tesla was still around. Tesla was still a big name, and what they were scared was that Henry Ford would get together. I don't think Ian explained this in enough detail, all right? But what the point was, why they did this, was because they were scared that Henry Ford would get together with Nikola Tesla, and the two of them together would start a business by which they would produce electric cars, and Tesla would give them the electricity, would produce the electricity, and the powers that be were terrified of that, which is why they got Ford to change to petrol-driven cars. There are people today who fear that kind of thing. They're not necessarily involved in the New World Order, but they fear a change in the geopolitical order of the Earth. They fear an end to this sort of like system we have today where there's the West and there's the Third World. Because one of the things that free energy would do, it would eliminate that bipolar situation. There wouldn't be a West and a Third World anymore. All right. I think every nation on Earth would probably have the same opportunities. And there's some people who are afraid that India and China would dominate the world with their huge populations, enormous resources. There's nothing really to stop them. With America, they'll be on the same level as America and all the other countries now. Well, which actually, to tell you the truth, China almost is already, no matter what. And I think, that country, China, does seem to be the new chosen son of the New World Order. But I mean, there's people on lower level who don't know anything about the New World Order. They're just scared of China and India becoming too powerful. And so that's one level, right? But on a higher level, on the people who are involved in the New World Order, or the creatures who are not people, I think I was talking about this with someone before the meeting. It's about putting people on a level of fear and hatred and terror and all this negative emotion that's been poured into our lives. I was talking to someone during the break who says that it's connected with childbirth and things like this as well, and population levels. But basically, I think that when we're frightened, I mean, everything we do. Thanks for coming. Everywhere we go in our life, there's something to be scared of, isn't there? There's something that we see. We've always got to wonder where our next meal's coming. We've got to wonder: is our next meal going to be there? Are we going to keep our job? Are we going to? Am I going to feed my kids? What am I going to do with my kids? What sort of world are they going to grow up into? Are we going to be invaded? Are we going to have a terrorist bomb explode? Things like this. And all these things contribute to basically what Andy Thomas says very, very eloquently. I don't know if you're familiar with Andy Thomas, the researcher. He says everything in the world is designed to break our spirit. And on one level, that's what it's about. Everything in the world is designed to demoralise us, to strip us of our hope and our joy, and put us into fear of distrust, negativity, insecurity. And that's deliberate. It's deliberate because then we will turn to the agents of the New World Order to keep us safe from whatever we've been programmed to fear, which is everything, basically. They've got a man there, in there, they've got a front man for all these categories of fear and distrust and insecurity, who they will say is the saviour, and if you just stick with him, you'll be okay. Free energy would solve nearly all the problems that we face today. It would solve nearly all of these things that make us afraid and worried and insecure. And under a situation with free energy, the new world would be impossible. There's no way it could happen. Could this be why being a free energy inventor is a very, very dangerous occupation, and a large number of them have faced harassment, ruin, and they've even been murdered? Stanley Mayer, who produced the Stanley Mayer cell, which I was talking to you about before, about when I said that 10 of them would turn Sudan into a green, lush paradise. He rather foolishly got involved with the Department of Defence in the United States, and which was acceptable. I mean, he was working as many of these people do, especially in America, which has a great tradition in sort of like garden shed inventors. He was basically working off his own budget for years and years and years, living in poverty, and then someone comes along and says, "I'll solve all your, just sign on the dotted line. This is a development contract. I'll solve all your financial problems. Come and work for me, and you'll be fine." I mean, it's tempting, and I understand why these guys do it. And they're very, very plausible. They're very, very nice. They appear very friendly and very positive. But the Mayer cell, the Department of Defence sort of like got involved with meetings with Mayer, and one of them, they took him out to a restaurant. He started eating his dinner, and he clutched his throat and his stomach, and he just had time to run into the street and shout, "They poisoned me, the bastards!" and he dropped dead. Eugene Maloff is another one who suffered a very similar fate. Bruce De Palma, the brother of the famous film producer, he died. I can't remember what happened to him. And if you look into the background into these people, at almost some point they either die, or their business is ruined and then they disappear. They become a recluse, or they sort of like disappear off the scene, and you don't hear from them again, and you don't hear from their invention either. They're still alive, living comfortably somewhere. Someone's paying them a nice lifestyle, but you just don't hear any more about their invention. These things seem to happen to everyone, and they have done. You can go back to Tesla and people like that in the 19th century. This has happened. It's a very, very long-term conspiracy. It's nothing new. It goes back at least 100 years. This conspiracy to suppress this, what I've talked about tonight. Another reason I want to bring up is that the government knows this exists, and what's more, the government has developed this technology in secret, maybe with the help of some of these inventors, and it has been turned into a weapon. They have a weapon which they could use if they needed to, and they have used it. And I think they used it on September 11th, 2001 to destroy the World Trade Center. And there's a lady called Dr. Judy Wood in the United States. You've heard of her? If you haven't, look her up. And she's worked closely with two other guys, a guy called Andrew Johnson, an Englishman, and a Canadian called John Hutchison, who has developed a lot of these things independently. He's discovered a lot of these technologies. Now, I'm going to go off into another subject, which some of you might not be able to bear with me on this, okay? But it's about a little thing called UFOs. Now, have any of you seen something in the sky that you can't explain?
Yeah.
Mostly, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I've seen things in the sky I can't explain. I don't know what it was. I don't know that it was I don't know that it was a spaceship from another world. It's just something I could see in the sky, I can't explain, that doesn't seem to fit into what would normally be in the sky, what should be in the sky. They explain as weather balloons, kites, marsh gas. I mean, some of them are. There's no doubt about it. Probably the majority have. If you look at them and again, you may see them as actually being that. But there are some which are not. All right, some of them are an artifact of an extraterrestrial civilization. Now when I say extraterrestrial, I don't necessarily mean they fly from some other planet. They're not just sophisticated spaceships from alien races on another planet, which we could see if we had a good enough telescope. No, and that's not necessarily the case. They may be something entirely different. But the point about it is, there's energy politics is taken seriously in the mainstream. It's all manipulated, but you get very serious reports about it in the news. You get a sour-faced newsreader talking about the oil prices and the OPEC shares and the latest venture into gas extraction and fracking. I mean, Ian Crane told you all about fracking the other day. I mean, this is another, I should mention, that the fracking is extremely destructive, but it's another one of these things that they are doing to persuade us we need to keep using the conventional oil sources. And what to do that, they're going to put high pressure water into the ground full of chemicals, which is going to break up the ground under our feet and cause earthquakes and other things, sinkholes, and it's going to release this gas into the environment. I mean, look up Ian Crane if you didn't go to his show last night. He'll tell you all about that. But it's things like that. They do, at least they do take it seriously. They treat it seriously. Now, a UFO news story is very different. It's you get you get somebody. They'll be at the end of the news during the novelty section before the adverts, and there'll be a reporter sitting there talking about some lights in the sky over a solitary plane or something. And suddenly, somebody above the frame of the camera, or the screen, will dangle a toy alien or flying saucer around the reporter's head. And he will laugh, and everyone in the studio will laugh. Thank you very much, ladies. See you next week. And that's the end of the programme. It's treated as a joke. So you might be wondering why I'm bringing these two things together. Why I'm bringing these two subjects together? Because, like I said, some of these craft, some of the objects are from some other world. They're not necessarily another planet, but they are intelligently controlled craft piloted by an intelligence from another world, maybe another dimension, not necessarily another planet. I mean, have you heard? I think the government know what these UFOs are. I think they have much more information than they're telling us. Have you heard of the Roswell incident? Yes, that's one good. There are many others, which is basically what happens is one of these artifacts comes to grief on the Earth's surface, and the government basically move in. They send in the military, they seal off the area, they secretly salvage the object and whatever or what is inside it. These objects, the most famous of these cases was at Roswell, New Mexico, in July of 1947. But there have been other cases too. It's just one of many. I think sooner or later the word Roswell is going to enter the Oxford English Dictionary as a common noun for these kinds of events. There was one in Gateshead in 1940. There was one in Cape Girardeau, Missouri in 1945, I believe. There was one in Brazil in 1996. There's been several others. I mean, these things do happen regularly. I mean, so could be here at Hull next. You never know. But what happens is, you see, you may wonder, say, what has UFOs got to do with energy politics? Well, if these craft are crossing vast distances in space, or they're coming through wormholes from other worlds, other dimensions, beyond sight and sound, they're not doing it on Texaco unleaded 4-star. And the government know this. And when they salvage these craft, they've examined them thoroughly. They may have been able to work out what their power plant is and their propulsion system. And it's quite likely to be something connected with anti-gravity and free energy that we've been talking about this evening. Now there's a movement going on at the moment. It's centred in the United States. It's got branches everywhere in the world called Exopolitics and Disclosure. The Disclosure Project, the Disclosure Movement. And this is basically a movement of people, which I'm involved in too. What it is, they are trying to petition governments to release all the information they have on UFOs. And they're saying, if you just write to your MPs, visit the White House, get involved with political movements, write to go to meetings, put your hand up, ask questions, things like that. If you do that, eventually the government will come out and say, okay, we admit it. We did pick up a UFO at Roswell, and this is all the information about it. It's all here for you. Right at this moment, in Washington DC, in fact, I was watching it, I was watching before I came here, but yesterday. I'll watch it when I get home. It's recorded. In Washington DC, at the National Press Club, there's something called the Citizens' Hearing on UFOs, where basically this movement has organised what in America they call a congressional hearing, which is where the US Congress, their parliament, gets together and they investigate something. Now, the US Congress has not agreed to do this, so they're holding a mock, or not a mock, it's a citizens' sort of common law version of that, where they're actually getting former members of the US Congress to act as a committee, and they listen to witnesses. These are various people, military personnel, pilots, air traffic control officers, government agents, people like that, who are coming clean about what they know about it. They've been involved in things like this, and they're coming clean. Now, I think that they're doing a good job in terms of them raising people's awareness of the issue. But what they want is disclosure with a capital D, which is what I just said. It's basically getting the government to admit what they know about UFOs. I think that is impossible. Willing disclosure cannot happen because the political structures we have in this world cannot absorb a revelation of that magnitude, and they've been designed so that they can't absorb it. For all the reasons I've told you, because coming clean about UFOs would mean coming clean about free energy. For all the reasons I discussed, they can't do that. They're also going to have to admit that they lied to us on a scale beyond anything they've ever admitted before. I mean, Watergate is just nothing to this. You know, they're going to have to say, we knew about free energy for all this time. Because, I mean, this is just going to be the first domino. If UFOs come out, they're going to say, well, what about Tesla? What about all this other stuff? They'll say, we knew about it for all this time, and we didn't tell you. We didn't tell you, not for your benefit, but for ours. Because it'll all come out. We did it because we didn't want you to have it, because we want to control you. I'll have to be honest. That's why we did it. Sorry. I don't think so. So I don't think that will work out. But basically, that is all connected. The UFO movement is connected with... So if you're active in ufology and exopolitics, you are directly active in the movement to disclose free energy. But you've got to be aware that it's just at the moment it's about raising awareness. That's all it is. Now, you may say, well, what can we do then? You know, if exopolitics is no good, or it's not going to achieve its aim, what can we do? Well, basically, the answer is, what we're doing right now is what we can do. It's all connected. I mean, how this is all going to come out, how this is going to end, I don't know. Because, as I said, our society doesn't have a precedent for this, all right? The disclosure of free energy, the end of the New World Order. There's no precedent. I don't know how it's going to happen. But all I do know is if we keep talking about it, and we keep telling our people, and we keep being active, not just about free energy, but it's all connected with other things. It's connected with freedom on the land. It's connected with what Kirsty was telling you about your TV licence. It's connected with, you know, genetically modified food, chemtrails, child protection, all these other things that, you know, I'd love to talk to you about, but I haven't got time. I could be here for a week telling you about all these subjects. They're all connected. And when you expose one, and you work to expose it, you're working to expose all of it. And just because I don't know exactly how it's going to happen, doesn't mean it ain't going to happen. Because I know that if enough people know, and enough people know a certain thing, it doesn't have to be everybody, it doesn't have to be the majority of people, it just has to be a critical mass. Now, I do a radio show on critical mass radio called Panama Radio, and the phrase critical mass is used for that reason. A long ago, in fact, over 40 years ago now, a scientist called Lyle Watson discovered what he called the 100th monkey effect. What that means is once a certain number of organisms within a population of animals know something, like monkeys and things like that, once they know a certain thing, suddenly that knowledge exponentially explodes out to the rest of the population, even though they haven't actually learnt it off the others. I mean, a few years ago we had a situation where birds were pecking through the lids of milk bottles left on doorsteps by milkmen. And it spread to the entire country almost overnight. The first birds did it, and a couple of other birds watched them, and they thought, I'll try that. So they went round, they did it, other birds watched them. And in fact, it could spread a long way in a long period. It'd take a long time, but it's possible it could spread across the country simply by that kind of way, that kind of method. They all learned from each other. But it didn't. It started like that in a small area. The next thing you know, every bird of the particular species, I think it was blue tits, knew about how to get milk out of a bottle of milk left on a doorstep by pecking through the lid. So keep at it, keep telling people, keep working everything these subjects in any way you see fit. You know, be active. You don't have to go out and give out leaflets to people. You can if you want. There's other ways. You don't have to do speeches like this. You can if you want. There's other ways. Or do YouTube videos. You can if you want. There's other ways. But all I know is, don't give up, however dark it seems, because I think it'd be very, very ironic, if we quit the moment before we hit that 100th monkey. The Illuminati will be laughing at us for centuries. So that's... And I mean, I disagree with Ian a little bit, because Ian is a bit more cautious than I am. He says, well, if you're campaigning on fracking, it's best to just tell them to move offshore. If you say, well, there's plenty of gas offshore, just put your fracking drill rigs there. I'm not like that. I mean, Ian's more tactful than I am. I just have to say, no, talk about the Cert effect generator. Talk about the Mayer cell. Talk about the Schauberger coil. Talk about the various other technologies I've spoken about today. They've invented the Hutchison effect, all of it. I'm going to change tack slightly now, okay? Because I want to tell you about what happened to me, which I don't want to discourage you. I'll just